Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Table Flippers Podcast, Ministry of Greater Works Christian Church, right here in beautiful Lancaster, California. I am your host, Robert Enos. Here I will discuss theology, doctrine, politics, social and cultural issues, pretty much anything I feel like talking about. But basically, I flip tables. Please remember to download each episode. That's very important. Download each episode. Hold on tight. It's going to be a bumpy ride. What do I find in my studies? What do I find when I'm reading, when I'm surfing the net, when I'm looking around and trying to read stuff, just trying to keep myself abreast of all these things that are happening in our world? I come across an article in the New York Post, and it says, over 99% of coronavirus patients in Italy who died had other health problems. Over 99%. So, of course, I read this. I want to get the gist of this. I want to see what it's talking about. And, well, it's very interesting, ladies and gentlemen, what we are dealing with here still after all of this time. But before I get to that, I want to talk about some things. First, I want to say somebody recently gave me what I consider a great compliment. They said, we really love listening to your program, listening to your podcast. You remind me of Rush Limbaugh. Now that caught me off guard because I consider Rush Limbaugh one of the greatest political commentators ever, at least in my lifetime that I heard. He was fantastic. He was very entertaining. He was very educational. And I know a lot of people come out and they try to lie and besmirch his name, but the reality of it is he was audited often by independent groups and found that he was one of the most accurate, if not the most accurate, one of the most accurate news commentators around. And he had the number one radio program, I believe, of all time. I believe so. If so, great. If not, whatever. So anyways, it was a great compliment for me for somebody to say, you are very much like Rush Limbaugh. You remind me of Rush Limbaugh. So I was trying to think, and maybe I'll be able to do this very soon. Rush had these great little intros and little jingles, like, he would say things like, talent on loan from God. And he would, introduce himself, Rush Limbaugh, talent on loan from God, and things of that nature. I remember he had some jingles. He would say things. It always cracked me up. The Maharishi, the all-knowing and all-seeing Maharishi. And he would, of course, slip his name in, Maharishi. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to come up with some things like that. I don't want to steal from Rush Limbaugh, but if I can sort of borrow the idea or borrow some of it, that'd be fantastic. Because like I said, I consider him one of the best. And he really was. Whether you like him or not, that's not what I'm saying. If you don't like him, maybe you need to get over yourself. But it's more about how just a great commentator he was. And although it was kind of news, it was commentary, it was also very entertaining at the same time. So you're getting a great education, and it didn't feel like it because it was fun. It was fun listening to him. Anyways, with that, let me get into this because I have a few things I want to touch upon. And this is a very short, at least from the New York Post, very short article. And what happened was I was surfing a social media site, and this article came up with this title, over 99% of coronavirus patients in Italy who died had other health problems. Of course, that captures my attention. So I clicked on the link, and it took me to a link that if I wanted to read the full article from that site, I had to not just subscribe, but part of their subscription was paying for it. And I thought, I'm sure I can find this for free on other sites. So I don't use Google, but I Googled it. In that regard, I searched for it on the web, and I came up with many, many, many articles under that heading from different sources. So the reason I picked the New York Post is because, when I read something on here or I reference something and I say it's from this news site, almost always there's going to be somebody out there that says, hey, you're quoting that person or that site, even though you can search for it and find that same exact article in many news sites, some well-known, some not very well-known, but the same article written by the same person, published on the same day, all that stuff. They just grab it and put it in their publication. And so I chose the New York Post article just so that when I say New York Post, I wouldn't get too many people saying, oh, you picked New York Post. Yes, I did. Same heading, same thing, so who really cares? But anyways, on this, let me read this to you real quick. It says, again, New York Post, over 99% of coronavirus patients in Italy who died had other health problems, by Jackie Salo, or Salo, S-A-L-O. And it was published, this was interesting, March 18th, 2020. So almost, not quite, but almost 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, they were already talking about this in Italy. And I'm just curious, why wasn't, not just this article, but why wasn't this brought out? I don't remember 3 years ago or 2 years ago anyone bringing this out. I do remember hearing about it briefly from the Italian government, but it was as if it was shut down real fast. They didn't want anybody else to hear it. And when I say they, I don't necessarily mean the Italian government, but somebody didn't want us to hear this or get this. And yet, almost 3 years later, here we are going to be talking about it. So 3 years ago, the Italian government and medical community understood this, that 99% of the people who died, supposedly from coronavirus, died with other serious health problems. So let me read this. Again, this is very short. It says more than 99% of coronavirus patients who died in Italy suffered from other pre-existing health issues, according to a study by the country's health officials. So capture that. 99% of the people who died from coronavirus, 99% of them already had pre-existing health issues. And this wasn't just some small group somewhere, fringe group, that could have twisted. This was the country's health officials in Italy. This article goes on to say, the new research from the National Institutes of Health, released Tuesday, evaluated 355 of the country's fatalities and found that only 3 patients had no prior medical conditions. So out of 355 people who died, only 3 of them had no prior medical conditions. That's important for you to understand, ladies and gentlemen. Nearly half of the COVID-19 victims suffered from at least one of the following conditions: high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease. More than 75% reported high blood pressure, while 35% had diabetes and 33% had heart disease, according to the study. The average age, now check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Already, if we just stopped right there and stopped with that information, that gives us a great deal. That says a lot. That people who are otherwise healthy or fairly healthy are not nearly as susceptible to or going to die from the coronavirus as those who are dealing with other issues that could, quite frankly, kill them. Okay? Blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease are the 3 main ones that they're talking about in this study and in this article. But listen to this. The average age, okay, so of the 355 that they're studying, all right, 3 of them had no issues at all, but the others had at least high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease. The average age of the victims was 79 and a half years old. I'm going to say that again. The average age of the victims was 79.5, and the number of deaths in the country surpassed 2,500 this week. So they did this, evaluated 355, but they're looking at a total of 2,500. All right? And the average age was 79.5. And out of that group of people whose average age was almost 80 years old, 79 and a half years old, they had high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease, or heart disease. Some of them may have had all 3, some of them may have 2, but we know that they had at least one, 75% high blood pressure, 35% diabetes, 33 heart disease. All things that could have killed them, especially people that at that age, could have caused them to pass away at that age, especially with any one of those. Anyways, and then COVID comes along, the coronavirus, and it makes those situations even worse, and many of them pass away, and the average age of the deaths, 79 and a half. It says here at the end, Italy has seen double the rate of coronavirus fatalities compared to the rest of the world. Double the rate. Now, I find this amazing, all right? Amazing that there were, I remember this initially, there was a lot of deaths in Italy, but when they started bringing out the reports, it was mostly among the elderly. I remember that very clear. It was mostly among the elderly. Now, please, people that are a little bit on the seasoned side, I am in no way trying to say that, hey, this is no big deal, they're going to die. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. I am somebody that says we need to protect life from from conception all the way until natural death. From conception to natural death, we need to protect and do whatever we can to protect people, keep them alive, and even in this sense, keep them comfortable alive. And so in no way am I trying to say that this is acceptable on any level. It doesn't matter if the average age of these people who are passing away was 150. We should still do whatever we can do to protect them and give them even a longer life. But my point on this is when they develop these COVID shots, these jabs, and they started giving them to people, and now we understand and we know that the people dying with the shot or because of the shot has surpassed the ones who have died without the vaccination. I mean, that's just, think about that. So the vaccination, this so-called vaccination, this shot, really didn't help. As a matter of fact, we also know that it destroys the immune system, which makes them more susceptible to sickness and disease. Go figure. So, anyways, so this average age, 79 and a half. Again, this just blows my mind because now what they have been doing is trying to get more and more children vaccinated with this experimental drug that does not work. Now, why would they do that when the average age in Italy, and I'm sure that if we went around the globe, it would be very similar, okay? Similar, maybe not exact, but similar. But the average age here is near 80 years old, 79 and a half. Why would they give it to a 2-year-old then? Why would they give something that's actually killing people to a 2-year-old? That it's very, very, very rare for COVID to actually harm a child, in that manner. Okay, there wasn't a lot of deaths among children because of COVID, and yet they're pushing this on children. Children, ladies and gentlemen. Why would any parent, now parents out there, listen to me, you parents out there, my God, parents, why in the world would you subject your children to that? In my opinion, and this really isn't opinion, it is my opinion, but it's actually truth, to give a child an experimental chemical drug that's been known to kill people and cause even other children to have such things as heart attacks and heart disease. It is child abuse to do that. Now, maybe early on when we were told over and over and over and over again that this COVID was so deadly that it was this shot that was going to save us all. Make sure you get it. Make sure your grandparents get it. Make sure your children get it. Make sure everybody gets it just to save us from this terrible COVID. Now, this side of it, we're realizing that the shot is actually killing people. It's dangerous, detrimental, and has long-term effects that we don't even yet know of, but we do know some of the shorter, when I say short-term, I'm talking about some people have had this COVID shot now, 2 years or something. We've seen all the deaths, all the heart attacks, all the strokes, all the blood clots. We've had all of this. We've had reproductive problems in young ladies because of it. And those are all just the immediate effects. So can you imagine the long-term effects? Okay, so maybe those of you who bought into the fear and bought into the lies because you didn't realize they were lying to you, ran out, got the shots yourself, and got your children the shots, maybe you get a little bit of a pass. But with everything that we know now, and actually have known for the last maybe year, any parent that goes and gets their child that so-called vaccine, that COVID-19 shot, the jab, as it's so lovingly known as, the jab. Any parent that does that, listen, if it were up to me, you'd all be standing in a courtroom, arrested, and standing in a courtroom pleading your case against child abuse. Because that's what it is. That's what it is. To give your child something that is known and proven to harm them is child abuse. So I want to ask y'all, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? I'm actually been blown away by this with a lot of people, because I've talked to people that I know, friends, who have told me, they have adult children, and my adult children said I couldn't come around my grandchildren unless I had the shot. Wait, what? So now your adult children are telling you that this is unbelievable. You can't go visit your grandchildren unless you've had that shot that could kill you, that could kill them and their children. So they're not very susceptible. It's not very deadly to children. So check this out. Here is this so-called disease that children are pretty much little kids. The younger, the more immune they are to it, at least on a deadly level. I'm not saying they can't get it, but it's not really going to harm them too much, except for some unique cases where they already have some type of compromised system. But for most children, they're healthy, and it's not going to bother them too much. So I'll put myself in the place of that adult. So here it is. I have children, 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, whatever. All the data says they're pretty much safe. Even if they get it, they might have a few little sniffles or something like that, but they're not going to be too harmed by it, okay? It's not going to be too bad for them. Okay. I have parents, grandparents to my children, and they want to come and visit their grandkids. Wait a minute, Mom. Wait a minute, Dad. Are you vaccinated? Do you have your COVID-19 jab and about 15 different, follow-up jabs? Well, no, we don't. Well, then you can't see. I mean, can you hear that? You can't see your grandchildren. Can you hear the manipulation in that? Can you hear, ladies and gentlemen, those of you especially that are Christians and you understand this, can you hear the Jezebel demon speaking through those people? You can't see your grandchild, who's not going to be harmed by this anyways, until you take a shot that could otherwise kill you, give you a blood clot, give you a stroke, give you a heart attack. Can you hear the Jezebel demon speaking through those adult children to their parents? This has been blowing my mind, ladies and gentlemen. And what really blows my mind is when the grandparents run out and get the jab to appease their children operating in this spirit of manipulation and control, just to appease them. I'm sorry. I love my kids. I love my grandkids, and thank God my kids have a pretty decent head on their shoulders, all of them, and they operate in some common sense. They can read even medical articles that say this is bad stuff and stay away from it. So thank God I didn't have to deal with that. But if any one of my children says you can't come and see your grandchildren unless you get this shot, I said, well, I guess I'm not seeing them. Why would I say that? I love my grandchildren. I love to hang out with them. I love to wrestle with them. I love to have fun with them. So why would I say that? Because I know that given a little bit of time, the truth would come out and they would get their act together, and they may even apologize. If they didn't straight up apologize, they would at least back off. So why was it, ladies and gentlemen, you grandparents out there that were told this, especially you that knew this is bad stuff, I don't want to get this, but I'm going to do it so I can see my grandkids. Why didn't you just wait? What made you so easily manipulated and controlled? Now, let's go even further back than that. Where did your children learn that Jezebel garbage? Where did your children learn it? You raised them. You raised them. Maybe this all is exposing far more than just fear of a virus or wrong placement of faith, because that's all this is for all this COVID shot stuff. You should have faith in Christ, faith in God, faith that He's going to take care of you, and you put your faith in Pfizer, you put your faith in Moderna, you've put your faith in Fauci. In other words, you made the medical community, especially Fauci, your Messiah. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but that's just the truth. I chose to keep Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and many still claim that, but they really made Fauci their Lord and Savior. And he let you all down, didn't he? He failed you all, didn't he? Because now even your children are saying, can't see your grandchildren until you get that Fauci shot, until you bow down at the feet of the medical community and worship Fauci and take his shot. And he failed you all, didn't he? It failed you all, didn't he? And that really is heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking to watch this. I'm just pointing this out, ladies and gentlemen. Don't shoot the messenger because the message you don't like. It's just the truth. So many, even people that I considered friends, caved to this nonsense. Oh, and here's another thing. Check this out. I was just driving around just today. Yes, I was, ladies and gentlemen, driving around in my truck, honking my horn, beep, beep. Okay, just kidding. I wasn't honking my horn. But anyways, I was just driving around, and I look over my right shoulder here, out the window, and I just noticed a car just kind of slowly passing me by. And here was this lady. She had something wrapped around her head. Maybe it was just a rag or something like that. That's okay. Wonderful. But she had this big mask on. I don't even know how she could see. This mask was not just like a breathing mask like we saw during the height of this stuff. But I mean, this thing was so big, I don't even know how she saw. She had gloves on, and she was, just driving her car. And I looked around in her car, to see who else is in there. There was nobody else in her car. All the windows were rolled up, and she's driving around with a mask. Now, I never, ever, 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 ever wanted to take away people's freedom to wear a mask, just like I don't want to take away anybody's freedom to not wear a mask. We live in the United States of America, and we're based in freedom and liberty, and we should have the liberty, the freedom to choose whether we want a mask or don't want a mask. She chose to wear a mask. That's completely fine as far as that is concerned. But the question I have would be then the why. Now, again, if she wants to do it, she could do it. That's her. I'm not going to ever tell her not to. But let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, let's face it. Let's just be honest with about this, and honest with one another, and even honest with ourselves. This has come down to mental illness with a lot of people. This is exposing a lot of mental illness based in fear. For those of you who are Christians and know the Word of God says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but peace, love, and a sound mind. So when you have people still driving around today, again, knowing everything that we know, and still are so afraid that they have the mask on, they have the rubber gloves, they have like 6 gallons of the sanitizer in the back seat, they practically have the scuba gear on with the breathing apparatus and everything. Maybe not that crazy, but the masks and the face shields and all that. If they're still, come on, that's a mental illness. I'm sorry. What all of this exposed was something that was deep-seated and deeply wrong in the heart of people. And my heart breaks for them. It's frustrating for me to see this because I know that she is steeped in fear. And those of you who chose not to wear the mask, but you ran out and got the COVID shot, don't be sitting back and go, look at that person. They're so full of fear. You are too, COVID shot person. You get all the boosters. Every time, it's like, oh, I need my 18th booster now. Let me go in and get it. This is ridiculous. All of it has really just shown the fear in the hearts of people. And so where did that fear come from? Well, the fear came from such sources as the government, Fauci, the CDC, the World Health Organization, our own pastors. I know some pastors that push this stuff crazy. Instead of fear, pushing courage and strength, they pushed fear. In other words, instead of pushing the courage and strength that comes from Holy Spirit, they pushed fear that comes from a demon, because that's what it is. All right. We got it from the medical community. We got it from our politicians. This has been crazy. This fear has been pushed on us from every angle. And so those who had some kind of a weakness within their psyche and their soul bought into it, and they are still being motivated by this fear that was pushed upon them. And let me tell you, the fear that was pushed upon us from so many different people and so many different angles, so many different organizations is criminal. It is criminal. When I still see women or men, it doesn't matter, people driving in their car today with the masks and the gloves and the face masks because of the fear that's been pushed upon them 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're still in that today after everything that we know. That's criminal. That is criminal. And as far as I'm concerned, if I was in control of all of it, I would have all of them in front of me answering, not just to me, but to not just the people of America, but that would be number one, but to the people of the world. Each death from these COVID shots, and there have been many, each person that has gone to the hospital with blood clots, heart attacks, heart issues, reproductive issues, stroke, all of those things being caused by these COVID shots. That's all criminal. And everybody that's pushed it, everybody, the creators of it, everybody that pushed it, Fauci, people in our government, the medical community, again, if it was up to me, they would all be standing in court pleading their case. And if I was the judge, it would be falling on deaf ears. I would just be going through the motions to go through the motions, and then I'd shout, y'all guilty, and they would all spend the rest of their life either in prison or worse, because that's criminal. And many, not just a few, many died because of their nonsense. And today, many are still living in fear because of their nonsense. Each person that died from COVID, they said it was COVID, and they weren't given, or they were denied, or they weren't given such treatments as hydroxychloroquine, well, you guys know what that was, the ivermectin, and other things that worked, that really worked. And there was groups of doctors saying, listen, this stuff works. And the CDC, Fauci, and other people like that, well, they're not really tested, so don't do it because it may harm you. Listen, you're getting a disease that's killing you. Are you worrying about trying a known drug that works because it may harm you further? See, that doesn't even make sense to me. I mean, honestly, that doesn't even make sense. Check this out. You're in an airplane, right? You're flying at 30,000 feet. Everything's cool. You hit some major turbulence, right? You look out the window and all the engines are on fire or just shut off. And now the airplane starts slowly going down, 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 down. The voice comes over the speaker. This is your captain speaking. We're going to crash. We have parachutes in the cockpit. We have parachutes throughout the airplane, but don't try them because these particular parachutes have never been tried before. You could be seriously harmed or even possibly die with these parachutes. But you're in an airplane that's going to crash at 600 miles an hour into a mountain from 30,000 feet. You're dying anyways. See, so ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but if there was some type of experimental parachute that worked other places, let's say it worked at 10,000 feet. Let's say it worked when you jumped out of a helicopter. Let's say it worked when you jumped off, did some, what do they call it, base jumping off the side of a cliff or even a building. But at 30,000 feet, out of a 747, that hadn't been tested yet. Okay, right? That's basically the picture of what's going on here. I don't know about you, but I would be strapping on that. And if nobody else wanted to, I would strap on 2 of them. And then I would jump out. Pull the string, because I'd have a better chance with that worked. Jumping out of other airplanes, jumping off buildings, off of cliffs, jumping out of lower altitudes, than nothing at all. You're going to slam into the side of the mountain going at 600 miles an hour if you stay in that airplane. That is the way COVID was. Okay? They claimed COVID, you get it, you're going to die. We have this experimental drug that's never worked before anywhere. It's completely unproven. But we also have these other drugs that have worked in other viruses and other problems very similar to COVID-19, but don't take it because it hasn't been tested on actually COVID-19. Well, that experimental COVID shot, the mRNA, never worked for anything, especially COVID, and yet you convinced the world to take it out of fear. Out of fear. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to break the fear. It's a mental illness right now. It truly is a mental illness. I still see people driving around a few. Now, that was just what I saw today, what I said earlier. But about, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I saw this person. I looked over. This time it was my left shoulder. And this person was sitting in a car next to me. We're both at a stoplight. He was alone in his car. But this time it was so interesting. The windows were cracked maybe only about 2 inches, the driver and the passenger side, like for fresh air or something. He had a face mask, a full face shield, I should say, on. He also had a mask on. He had some kind of plastic thing over his head, and he had gloves on. Now, granted, mind you, there could have been something serious outside of COVID that he was afraid of or something like that, and I understand that. But then chances are he probably wouldn't be driving around. And no, it did not look like at all he was in the medical. These are all things that you could pick up, on your own. These weren't medical grade things that like doctors or that use. And even if he was a doctor, what in the world is he still wearing them driving around? See, this kind of stuff, it's criminal. I'm not saying on him. I'm not saying he's the criminal. But the people that have pushed that fear into him and that lady I talked about, and people like that are still out there so scared, so afraid, still thinking that they, I just can't do anything in life unless I get that shot. Now it's the booster. Now it's the other booster. Now it's the next booster. Now it's the next booster. Now it's I got the booster and I still have to wear the gloves and the masks and all that. That's criminal. What these people have done to the citizens of this country and the world. It's criminal. And now it's starting to come out again with everything that we know. It's coming out in Italy. 99% of the people that supposedly died with the coronavirus, 99% had other issues, other serious issues. And the average age of the people that passed away, 79 and a half. They already had other illnesses that they were dealing with. The fear wasn't warranted. The COVID-19 shots still never were warranted. This has been nonsense from the get-go, and there's still people falling into it. And my heart breaks for them. And I am so angry at our government, angry at our medical community, angry. I'm especially angry at those pastors and church leaders that pushed the vaccine that's now killing people. Push the masks, push the fear, because they literally were peddlers of demonic mentalities, and they still call themselves pastors. It's disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to rise up. We've got to grab our courage. We've got to overcome all of this nonsense, because the truth is coming out. We've got to embrace the truth. The Bible still says, you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Thank you again for joining us at Table Flippers. Please check out our merchandise. We have hats, hoodies, water bottles, all kinds of cool things. You can find all of our merchandise at tableflippers.com. That's tableflippers.com. And please write me. Please let me know how I'm doing. Write me at gwccrobert, that's one word, gwccrobert@gmail.com. Give me the good letters, give me the bad letters, tell me the great things I'm doing, tell me the bad things I'm doing. I want to hear it all. Have a great day.
Table Flippers is flipping